It's a special place that was meant to be more special. I don't want to sell it.
Just give us what's ours and we'll move on.
Janelle, I'm so mad.
This is the end of this family.
Kody's approach is really concerning. His tweenage daughter is about to move in with a man her mother has known for just 6 weeks, and Kody can't even take the time to meet him or have a conversation to get a sense of who he is, especially when he'll be spending so much time around his daughter. This is a situation that requires a lot of caution. When a parent is caught up in a new relationship, sometimes it clouds their judgment, and they bring someone unfamiliar into their children's lives. While we don't know the man's intentions, Kody should at least make the effort to understand who he is before allowing him to have such close access to his daughter. The risks are high, and yet it feels like no one is really considering them. Mykelti is letting her children live with her younger sister, and while that's her choice, it does raise questions about the safety of the kids. It's important for everyone involved to take extra care when it comes to protecting children, and it doesn't seem like enough due diligence is being done. Then there's Kody, who seems indifferent about meeting David. If this man is going to be in his daughter's life, Kody really should care more. Christine wants love, which is completely understandable, but she's also a mother, and she needs to consider the potential risks that come with rushing things. It's not that David is necessarily a threat. He seems fine from what we know, but it's always important for parents to proceed with caution when minor children are involved. Kody could have a conversation with David, but if the man had ill intentions, it wouldn't matter what Kody says. The conversation that really needs to happen is between Kody and Christine, where they discuss boundaries when it comes to Truly and how Christine plans to make sure she stays safe. It's worrying that these important conversations aren't happening, and it leaves the children in a vulnerable position. It's hard to understand how 5 adults who emphasize the importance of safety in their lives can overlook the safety of the children in their care. There are real concerns here that need to be addressed. We've got so much to dive into today, so let's not waste any time. Let's jump straight into it. Hey everyone, what's up? It's Elena here, and welcome back to my channel Reality Nexus X. It seems like there's a lot of contradiction when it comes to Janelle's image. She's often portrayed as being financially savvy, career-driven, and super laid-back. But when you break it down, some of these assumptions don't fully add up. People like to paint Janelle as the smart one, especially when compared to Meri or others, often highlighting her approach to finances and career. However, when you dig into her actions, some of it doesn't align with the financially wise or career-oriented image people have of her. If Janelle were truly great with money, why would she have been part of those cyclical bankruptcies or cashed out her $401 to fund MSOT, which she didn't even seem to support? These aren't signs of someone making the best financial choices. Moving to a more expensive home, especially one her kids didn't want to go to, seems like another decision that contradicts the image of someone who is prudent with their resources. And then there's Coyote Pass. If she were truly as money smart as she's portrayed, it's hard to believe she'd think that land was a reasonable investment, especially with the current issues they've had trying to build on it. When it comes to her career, Janelle's narrative seems equally cloudy. She was certainly career-focused in the early seasons of Sister Wives, but her actions didn't match the typical career woman we'd expect. She quit her job and didn't seem to actively pursue any sort of career after that. If she were really career-oriented, wouldn't she have sought out something that gave her more purpose or income? Instead, she seemed content to step away from the day-to-day responsibilities, leaving Christine to drive the kids around and handle the household duties, while Janelle enjoyed some freedom after work. This doesn't necessarily reflect a career-driven person, but more of someone avoiding responsibility. People tend to hold Janelle up as the logical one because she's well-spoken, but it seems like she's often avoiding confrontations and never fully addressing issues when they arise. That's not being laid back, that's being avoidant. you can't claim to be chill when you're holding on to resentment for decades without addressing the core issues. For example, her ongoing grudge against Meri. She seems to harbor all these feelings without ever confronting Meri directly. This isn't about being laid back. It's about avoiding necessary conversations and letting frustration simmer beneath the surface. The reality is, Janelle seems to go along with things rather than truly standing her ground, especially when it comes to big decisions like plural marriage or Coyote Pass. If she were as intelligent or business-savvy as people think, wouldn't she have gotten more involved in making sure her needs were met, instead of passively waiting for things to resolve themselves? And her desire to continue with plural marriage, despite all the issues they faced, raises questions about her judgment. It's clear that Janelle may have a lot of strengths, but also a lot of unresolved issues, especially around confrontation and decision-making. In the end, it feels like people have built an idealized narrative around Janelle that doesn't entirely reflect the complexities of her actions. She's not the perfectly rational, financially savvy, career-driven woman that people sometimes make her out to be. She's a person who struggles with avoiding conflict and doesn't always make the best decisions. There's a lot more to unpack when it comes to her character than just a well-spoken exterior. I am finally on Season 16, Episode 4, and I am so done with Janelle and her obsession with this TM pond. Every time she brings it up, I just want to scream. Honestly, it's mind-blowing that she's so fixated on this glorified puddle of dirty water that serves absolutely no purpose. She can't let it go for even a second, and it's like she's determined to make everyone else miserable over it. It's not just about wanting the pond. She literally won't allow anyone else to be happy about their land without having this pond situation at the top of the agenda. I can't believe she was literally pushing Kody to make sure everyone had access to it, just so she could wake up at 5 a.m. and row a boat around, doing absolutely nothing of any value. And every time she whines about the pond, it haunts me in my nightmares. It's like a broken record. I could go on and on about how Janelle has become increasingly unlikable over the seasons. She used to seem like a girl's girl, but now she's just a total pick-me who only cares about getting her way and simping for Kody, who is clearly checked out of their relationship. It's sad, really. Let's talk about this whole irrigating your farm-to-table greenhouse with drainage ditch overflow idea for a second, though. Is it really a good plan to use water from a system of ditches that could be full of plague-infested prairie dog crap? Honestly, I don't think this whole thing is as smart as she likes to think it is. They're all acting like idiots. Janelle might be seen as the smart one in this family, but it's really just a group of people who can't think things through properly. Speaking of bad decisions, Janelle basically pushes Kody to move Meri out of her spot so she can claim that land near the pond for herself. Kody, under her influence, starts pressuring Meri to choose a spot for her house when the land isn't even subdivided yet. Meri ends up in this ridiculous in the trees, out of the trees debate, and Kody uses that to push her onto a spot by the road. It was never about the trees. Meri knew exactly what was happening. She wasn't just upset about the trees, she understood Kody's intentions, and it was a manipulation to get her to move. Later, Kody admits that he pretty much swindled Meri, using the excuse that other family members were worried about her not sharing her apartment 30 years ago. Seriously? The whole thing is ridiculous. Is anyone else finding it super weird that suddenly there's this flood of posts tearing down the ex-wives? I mean, seriously, what's going on? I'm all for having opinions, but it's pretty obvious that Kody and Robyn are behind this PR blitz. The one that really gets under my skin is the whole anti-Janelle campaign. Janelle, of all people, she's the sweet, responsible, dependable, and mature grandma who just wants to live her life and garden in peace. But now suddenly, they're acting like she's the villain? Come on, we're not falling for it. We've seen everything for the past 19 seasons, and no amount of PR spin is going to make us forget that. And let's be real, Kody steals from everyone, so it wouldn't surprise me if he stole this PR idea straight from the Tiger King playbook. I'd honestly love to see him rocking a t-shirt that says, "I will never financially recover from this." That's the real mood right there. This scene really hit me hard. Janelle is talking about how Garrison is so close to getting his own house, but just needs a few more months to save up, and Kody literally tells her, "You're behaving as though this is our problem," and tells her to just throw him out. I knew this moment was coming, but in light of everything that's happened since, it's just devastating to watch. Especially when you think about Garrison hearing those words from his dad. I'm not blaming Kody for Garrison's passing. That's a cruel and unfair thing to do. But it's impossible to ignore how damaging that conversation must have been. Imagine hearing your father say that he doesn't care if you end up homeless and doesn't even acknowledge the huge accomplishment of buying a house so young. As someone who has struggled with mental health and dealt with toxic parental figures, I just started crying for Garrison. It's heartbreaking. I can't wrap my head around why anyone would still want a relationship with Kody after this. Even without the tragedy, it's clear he's undermining his son's life goals because his own needs, like getting back into Janelle's good graces, come first. I could understand if Garrison was unemployed or not working toward his goals, but he wasn't. He was making strides, getting a hand up, not a handout. Kody's attitude just makes no sense. There were so many other ways Kody could have supported his kids. He could have rented Gabe and Garrison an apartment during coronavirus. Simple, right? Or he could have helped with Garrison's down payment instead of spending money on more jewelry and paintings for Robyn. It's just hard to understand how he could prioritize his own wants over his children's needs. Honestly, Kody should have to rewatch the coronavirus episodes every single day for the rest of his life. If I were Janelle, I would make Kody's life a living hell from this point on. Like, planted a new garden at your house, Kody? Whoops, here's a bleach-filled super soaker. Saw your truck in a parking lot? Better hope I don't have a nail handy. I totally understand where you're coming from, and I agree that it's sad to see Meri so left out. I'm not fully updated on every little detail from the kids' lives or the side streams, but I've been watching the series for a long time, and it's clear that Meri has gotten a lot of hate over the years. It's true that Meri wasn't always the nicest person, and there are allegations about her being abusive to the kids, but I don't think it's as simple as that. Meri definitely speaks her mind, and maybe she comes off as abrasive, but she doesn't seem to get the same grace or understanding that Christine or Janelle do. It feels like people just focus on her flaws without really considering the whole picture. Meri was the first wife, and the way Janelle came into the family definitely wasn't easy. She was married to Meri's brother and had a baby with Kody before Meri did. Then Christine came in during the middle of all the chaos, which only added to the tension. Those early years were definitely hard, and I think it set the tone for the rest of their relationships. Janelle was always working, likely as a way to escape her home life, while Christine was home raising her kids. And yet, no one really gives her any criticism for that, but Meri gets all the blame for being a little mean. Sure, Meri might have had some power struggles, but let's be real, are any of them perfect? We've seen Christine be rude to Meri, Janelle be rude to Meri, and vice versa. They all had tension and disagreements for decades. They were all unhappy at some point, so why does Meri always get singled out? As much as we all dislike Kody, and his bias is obvious, he did say something in the breakup season that stood out. He said that Christine was the one who started fights and instigated drama. He was upset about their breakup, of course, but he never said anything similar about Meri or Janelle when they left. So why is Meri still the one getting all the hate? It's clear that Meri has been isolated from the rest of the family. And while I know the sister wives didn't do her any favors, I also think Meri often chose to leave herself out of situations. She admitted at one point that she secluded herself because she didn't feel safe or comfortable sharing with the family. And that's a real thing. Whether she meant to isolate herself or not, she did, and that created distance. Plus, a lot of Christine and Janelle's kids have openly expressed discomfort or animosity toward Meri. Whether it's justified or not, it's there. If I had kids who didn't want to be around someone, I wouldn't be pushing to include them in family events either. Meri was in a tough spot when Christine left, and while she said she didn't want to take sides, it's pretty clear that she did, especially when it came to aligning with Kody and Robyn. That must have caused some hurt feelings that lingered, and it's understandable why some of the family might feel a certain way. At the end of the day, it's possible to love someone, but also recognize that it might be healthier to keep some distance for everyone's sake. That's probably what happened here, and it's just sad to see Meri left out in the cold. I am so frustrated with the producers right now. Why do they keep letting Robyn off the hook for the blatant lies she tells in her confessionals? I get that people think it's because she'll just refuse to speak or walk off set if they press her, but come on, this is her only income. At some point, there has to be accountability, or this show is going to get way beyond ridiculous. And let's not even get started on the whole 2-year back timeline thing. It's like they just throw out logic and reality for the sake of keeping the peace. The producers really need to step up. If they want to keep the show from getting stale and becoming a complete snooze fest, they need to hold her feet to the fire. Get tough with her. Threaten her income if she refuses to answer tough questions. Let's see how quickly she starts telling the truth. If they did that, we might actually get a more satisfying edit as viewers. Instead, they're letting her get away with everything, and it's seriously undermining the show. I remember how Kody threw a fit with Suki a few years ago. When she asked a question he didn't like, he was rude and dismissive. Yet, the producers let him get away with it. I've seen producers on other reality shows take a much firmer stance with the cast, but here, it's like they just let Kody and Robyn walk all over them. Why is that? They really need to stop coddling them and hold them accountable for once. I honestly can't believe how naive they were with the whole family pot situation. It blows my mind that the women, including Robyn, were okay with putting all their money into a collective pool instead of keeping it separate. Why wasn't the money split 5 ways? That would have made so much more sense. The entire thing was just ridiculous. If they were going to do anything, everyone's name should have been on the houses, especially Christine's, Robyn's, and the land. Now, Janelle and Meri are left in a tough spot because they were essentially locked into a bad deal without proper protection. Honestly, even as a married woman, I can't imagine agreeing to put my money into something that didn't have my name on it. If I were single, there's no way I'd ever agree to that. It's just common sense. But I guess, growing up in that world where the man is seen as the head of everything, they trusted Kody to make decisions for them. They were taught to trust him, and unfortunately, they followed him into some truly questionable choices. And even if they had split the money evenly 5 ways, that still wouldn't have been fair. Kody never put any money towards supporting the kids. He never invested in his children the way he should have. Instead, all his money went to Robyn and her kids. So not only did he shortchange the wives, but he also didn't properly support his own children. It's just all around bad financial planning and poor decision-making. The whole situation was set up to fail from the start. What if Robyn had been forced to move into the big house in Leigh? I mean, she's never had to live the reality of polygamy the way the others did. She always had her own space, no need to deal with Kody being with his other wives, and her kids never had to share space with their siblings or even spend much time with the other moms. From the start, she was kept separate, like she was in her own little bubble. If she had been put in a situation where she had to live alongside everyone else and truly experience polygamy, I bet she would have bolted. Robyn never wanted polygamy in the first place, She just wanted her own version of it, the one where she got to be the favorite wife, with all the perks, but none of the challenges. She always kept quiet during discussions about the family dynamic, especially when it came to tough decisions like the big house. She knew if she didn't speak up, someone else would shut it down for her, and she could avoid the tough conversations. She didn't want to have Christine watching her kids, didn't make Kody take responsibility when he neglected his other marriages, and she certainly didn't kick him out when he abandoned his kids. She didn't bother maintaining any relationships with Meri, despite Meri making efforts, and instead, she just let all that bitterness grow. Robyn didn't want polygamy. She just wanted the other wives' resources and Kody's attention. She's the queen of playing the victim, even when she created her own reality. The woman is an expert in self-made martyrdom. I honestly think Kody uses his tears as a manipulation tactic with the wives. If you go back and watch Christine's wedding special, her dad mentions that Kody actually called him and was crying about Christine leaving. Now, in the current season, we're seeing him tear up over Meri, which makes me think he's doing the same thing again. It's almost like he's crying to maintain some control, knowing deep down that these marriages are ending. He's trying to use his emotions to make them feel bad for him, to get some last-ditch sympathy and maybe even sway them to stay in his orbit. It's almost like he's trying to pull the same move he did with Christine. Remember, he called Rex before her wedding in 2023. It's clear he's trying to manipulate the situation as much as he can, crying over things that are over and done with. His tears aren't about the actual loss, in my opinion. They're more about him trying to control the narrative and make them feel guilty. It's classic narcissism, using emotions to maintain power, boost his ego, and get them to feel sorry for him. I don't think Kody is genuinely devastated about losing them. He just wants to stay in control, and crying is his tool to keep them wrapped up in his web. It's really all about power, not emotions. The Brown family has really lost its spark. Without the original sister-wife dynamic and a bunch of young kids, this season feels slower and more lackluster compared to other reality shows. The drama just isn't there, and as time goes on, the cast seems to be getting less likable. Take Christine, for example. She left Kody because he cut her off, then later said it was about the kids. Now, just 6 weeks later, she's moved in with a new guy and openly admits she doesn't care what the kids think. It's all a little too predictable and not that exciting, especially with the pre-wedding scenes feeling pretty underwhelming. Janelle's pretty much been Mia. So far, her storyline has been about hanging out with Christine and waiting for the Coyote Pass situation to get resolved. But nothing's really happening there. Nothing has even changed with the land titles. It's like they're just treading water. Meri's storyline about leaving Flagstaff and dealing with Kody's ridiculous comments adds some drama, but it's really just her occasionally dropping some truth bombs. And her friends have interesting insights, but it's not enough to carry the plot. Then there's Kody and Robyn, still the same old, same old. No real changes, just more of the same. So, where do they even go from here? Maybe Meri talking about her worthy up business, Janelle trying to push her t-shirt business, or Christine yet again comparing her new guy to Kody. None of it is exactly thrilling. It's honestly getting boring because they've stopped interacting as a family. Many reality shows have cast members who don't get along, but they still have to face each other throughout the season and reunions. The Browns, though, have been allowed to dictate who they interact with, and it's made for a pretty dull viewing experience. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and much love to you all.